that was all in the studio like we talked about. Well, in Top Gun Maverick, they all flew to the point where, you remember when the black guy passed out and then Tom had to save him? And you probably don't know how he did that, but when you lock up on the bad guy, you get a warning tone in your cockpit. So he tried to lock him up and have the warning tone wake him up, which worked. But here's the thing, because they all had cameras and they worked them themselves, when he did the maneuver, he passed out. So you saw him go through all the stages. Well, first when you're pulling G's, you get to about 5, 5.5, and it starts tingling in your peripheral vision, because that goes first. And then as you pull more G's, you start getting tunnel vision. So it starts getting blacker and blacker, and you have what's called foveal vision in the center of your eye, not the peripheral vision. And then if you pull a little more G's, like 6.5 for a while, you get down to a real tiny tunnel like they showed in the movie. And if you pull just a little bit more or a little bit longer, that goes. Here's the interesting thing, you can still hear. So you don't have enough blood for your brain to work your eyes, but you're blacked out as far as vision, and you can hear everything. So there I am, can't see, I'm past tunnel vision, and I go, all right, before I black out, I need 1 particular tube, and that'll give me about 38 more degrees in my turn. And then when I take the G off, the blood comes back, my eyes work. I know I went almost 40 degrees this way, so I look there for the bogey, and there he is. It's called situational awareness. So if you do that smoothly, that's how it happens. If you're a hamburger and you do it fast, you can go from 0 to 6.5, or depending on the airplane, 7.3 for an F-15, 9Gs for an F-16. When you get to that max G, you black out instantly, and you go just like that guy did in the movie. He blacked out, his eyes rolled in the back of his head, he was rubbernecking all around, totally unconscious, and they said, well, let's use that scene in the movie, because they had it all on film. So any burning questions about Top Gun 1, Top Gun Maverick, the school where I was an instructor from 77 to 79, MiGs, which I flew at the Top Gun school for the class, and then we got a whole squadron of MiGs to do it for everyone, because it was so helpful for the Top Gun guys that it was unbelievably important for the Air Force, the Marines, and the Navy to encounter a MiG before combat. Because some of you hunters know what buck fever's like, and you get buck fever real bad when you first pass a MiG. And the guys will just sit there and you watch, the lift vector's not on you, he's not pulling a lot of G's, just kind of arcing on the sky. You roll in reverse and you're gunning the heck out of him, and he's sitting there going, oh my God, it's a MiG. So we realized the exposure was really important, because most people get killed in their first 10 combat missions. If you can get beyond that, you're good. So we would give them 3 sorties, about 3 engagements each. So they had 9 engagements with the bad guy, and then they can go home ready for war, instead of like the first couple times they fight us when they all just fly right out in front and get shot. So MiGs, Top Gun movies, Top Gun school, F-14. Who's got a question?
Did you have a special move you used on people?
Yeah.
Like Heater's got him right here, I'm gonna do this.
Yeah, what you can do, I wish I had models, but if you're in DCS or anybody that's fighting, you can actually win a lot of fights just by going both feet on the instrument panel, lift vector and pull. And you bleed all your energy off like crazy, because that turns your turn radius smaller and smaller, gets your rate beyond maximum, because bleeding while you're adding degrees of turn. And then when you hit the pass, you've got angles. And anytime you've got angles, it can work behind. Imagine if you're in a fight and you're always looking over your shoulder very hard. So you want to be behind the wing line of the guy and then be able to get in an envelope to shoot. So that got you slow. And what I learned is whoever's the slowest in a big fight gets shot the first. And the second guy who gets shot is the one who shot the slow guy, because you're predictable. So when we have what's called a fur ball, where we had 30 to 40 airplanes flying around at Top Gun in a big 1D mini, whoever made some moves and got slow got shot first. The guy who shot him was predictable, so he got shot next. And you learn that if you're slow, you're going to die. So I changed my tactic to staying on the corner speed, where I had enough airspeed. Oh. That's a mini Lego model. Unbelievable.
See a stick.
Wow, I wish I remembered that song that's singing that. That was a catchy song in that Lego movie. I can't remember. But anyway, instead of bleeding all the way down to 180 or 150 and getting that last shot and then pulling out of the sky, you stay at the corner speed, which is maximum G at the minimum airspeed. So if your airplane is a 6.5 G airplane, do people know what G's are?
Force of gravity.
Yes, sir.
Well, yeah, so if I'm on a scale and I'm in the cockpit and I weigh 200 pounds, if I pull 7 G's, that scale would say 1,400 pounds.
Yep.
And my little 8-pound head, it'd be about 56 pounds. So there's a lot of pressure going down, which is why you wear a G suit, which fills up with air and it squeezes your calf and your thigh and your abdomen. But that only helps you with 1 G. So a 7 G turn is like a 6 G turn if you have a G suit on. And if you grunt like that when you're pulling, it makes your blood tighten up and you can actually get another G. So in an F-16, 9 Gs, seats kind of back so you can pull the Gs better, sticks over here. The 9 Gs is still debilitating. And a lot of those guys got hurt in the F-16. But you pull that kind of G, 9G, corner speed, F-16, probably 330 depending on the weight and what you're carrying. So every airplane has a different corner. The old F-4 Phantom was way high at 450. If you got below 450, you couldn't pull 6.5 Gs. So the more you bled off airspeed, the less G you could pull, and you're basically in a death spiral and die. So I would keep the F-14 early in the hop with a lot of fuel, carry 20,000 pounds of gas. So you can imagine if you get rid of 10,000 pounds of gas, how much better it is. Does anybody know snort?
Yeah,
You
snort
heard about
gas?
snort? Yeah.
Snort fluid.
So snort did that lift vector and pull thing with everybody. And he loved that. And he would even get his landing flaps down and do it. And he would pull real hard, lose all his energy, give it away, and kill almost everybody he fought. Because that was so shocking to have somebody so aggressive and get on him. And because it was 1v1, he didn't worry about being slow. He could just go away. What I would do, long way to answer your question, is stay at that corner speed, and that gave me the ability to judge what this guy's doing. If I had angles, then I knew he wasn't pulling. And I could get angles on him even at my corner speed. And I'm thinking, wow, he's staying fast for an energy fight. And so as soon as I passed, I'm either thinking he's not willing to pull G's today, or he's got some goofy plan in mind that's not going to work. now that I have angles, wham, I'm just going to pull behind him and get him. And if he hits nose on, that I know, he's doing the same thing I am. So he's working max G, same turn radius, and if he pulls inside of me and goes like that, I go, great. Now, that guy had to bleed 85 knots, maybe 90 knots to be able to do that, depending on the type of airplane, how high we are in the weight. And when I see him do that, I either calculate that he's slow enough there, or I'll do one more turn when he gets real aggressive, and now he passes with 90 degrees, but I know maybe I have 100, 125 knot advantage. So when he passes here, I go like this, level my wings, pull smoothly up in the vertical. He goes, I got him. Oh, I again got him. He falls off because he's slow, and then I just kick it around, come down. I've got about 5,000 to 6,000 feet on him. Fox 2 on the A4 that's out of airspeed, you know, going downhill, wherever you're fighting. So my tactic was to stay fast, figure out what his game plan was, and then beat that plan, and not that slow. Way too much air combat moving for most of you. They want to know about, did Tom Cruise really look like that?
What was it like teaching adults, especially in that setting? And do you have any funny stories from that?
Well, you're probably thinking there's a lot of type A personalities, right? And, so there are. Did you say adults?
Yes.
With a grain of salt. They're there to learn. Top Gun, we used to say, good enough is never good enough. They said that at the beginning when it started. That kind of transition to no points for second place. And we tell the class, there's no silver, there's no gold. You either win or you're dead. So that transitioned into second place is dead last. We had that right under our patch on our shirts and polo shirts and t-shirts like this. And where that all came from is from the beginning. This whole thing about good enough is never good enough. We have to get better. No matter how good you do, there's something you can improve on. So that is called the relentless pursuit of perfection. And that's what blew me away when I came as a Top Gun as a student. My squadron was the best in the Navy. It won the Joe Clifton Award, Best Fighter Squadron, won the S, won the E, won the Bula Bula, won the Fighter Derby. We won everything. So we were literally the best squadron in the Navy. I come to Top Gun, I am blown away. I mean, we were here. Top Gun is like here. And that impressed me so much. I was hoping I'd get back to Top Gun. There's no Top Gun trophy like you see in the movie. In fact, with that whole classroom scene, this is the trophy. If you remember, it had a gold F-14 in it. So Tony Scott, the director, had me standing there. So for the whole classroom scene, I'm like this, in the back of the classroom. Most of the time you can only see from here down. When it came to after the class where the skipper with Viper was talking to everybody, remember they zoomed in on the model. The reason it looks like different lighting and it's all by itself is because I left. I did not want to be a Top Gun bro. All instructors, patch wearers are graduates or bros. So, and the bros are the instructors. And so I didn't want to be next to a trophy that had an F-14 in the gun sight, for starters. And in a movie about Top Gun where we didn't have a trophy, there was no such thing. It was all about teamwork, not about Maverick and Ice. They wouldn't have lasted 2 days at Top Gun. So the idea is to have guys that are credible, approachable, and humble. If you don't have those three attributes, at the end of the class, 5 weeks back when I was doing it, 13 weeks now, they got together. There wasn't a trophy, but there was this. We would all sit down and we'd go air crew by air crew, pilot reel, radar intercept officer, like Pappy. And we'd go through each one of them and evaluate whether they'd be a good instructor. You could be the best pilot in the world, be able to do anything with that airplane. If you weren't humble, credible, and approachable, who's going to talk to you? Who's going to go talk to Maverick or Goose about anything? They were just cocky, smart alecky, and they weren't serious about learning. They weren't adults at all. So you go through all the pilots and Rios, and you say, we'll pick this guy to come back. You might pick one Rio, you might pick a different pilot from another crew. A lot of times they don't pick anyone. Sometimes they might pick two. And then you're designated as they tell the Bureau of DC, we want this guy back to be a Top Gun instructor. So after you graduate, you go back to your squadron, do another cruise with them, teach your squadron everything that you learned, and then you come back after the cruise, your next set of orders, you're going to Top Gun, if you were selected. So that's kind of how it worked. I guess I got the Top Gun trophy because I got picked to come back and be an instructor. And that's trophy enough, right? There wasn't a real trophy anybody got. You didn't want anybody individually trying to do like Ice and Maverick, where Ice was staying in and 10 more seconds, 10 more seconds. If you hear your wingman is in a position to shoot, bam, you roll off because all you care about is the shot. Let him shoot it, get the heck out of there, move on to the next thing. Because time kills in a dogfight. That answer your question?
Okay, now when you did get back to the squadron and did the cruise, how, I know it kind of gets into, how basically did you arrange your classes for the other pilots? Was it like an hour every day, or did you try to do some stuff to explain what you did over the course of the entire cruise?
Over the course of the entire cruise, we had AOMs, all officer meetings,
Okay.
maybe 25 to 30 pilots and Rios in a ready room, which is why we called it this. And you'd have different lectures. And I gave the 1v1 lecture at Top Gun, and the MiG lecture and AAA, and briefing and debriefing, for instance, the whole time I was there. But then you have to learn all the other stuff. So I gave all 4 of those briefings to my squadron and the other briefings. But where the Top Gun instructor really matters is in the briefings for the flight.
Right.
Because Top Gun briefings are so professional, so different the way the fleet does it. And we got, fleet was down here and Top Gun was up here, and we kept making the fleet better and better as the Top Gun graduates came out and basically proselytized and got the word out. Here's how you do a brief. Then you go fly it. You fly it like you brief it, and then you come back and you debrief. Debriefing is really important, and that's where a Top Gun instructor can shine, because usually you have the essay, remember everything, remember everybody, and you can even tell people what they were thinking at the time when they were doing the maneuvers. And then the other guys watch that, and as you elevate your briefs, they elevate their briefs, and then everybody has better briefs, debriefs, and plays.
Then your Rios, they would cover what, missile envelopes and stuff like that?
Oh, yeah, yeah, that's a big airplane, a lot of responsibility. It's a 2-man crew. When the crew is working perfectly, like any tandem, whether it's doubles tennis or whatever, when 2 people are in sync, that's a mean machine. When you're out of sync and you haven't coordinated very well, and oh, I thought you were going to do that, oh, I thought you were going to do that, you know, it's something you got to work on. And then you both know when you're clicking. When you're not clicking, you got to come back, talk about it, get your shit together so you can make the airplane perform the way it's supposed to perform. not have any leaks. What else would you say about Rios, Captain?
And you hit it because the responsibility is so much different between the front to back. The Rio needs to know what the pilot's thinking and doing, and the pilot needs to know what the Rio's thinking and doing. If you have either one of those with a disconnect, just like Heater says, you're not gonna be very good. And it takes time to do that. I flew with different Rios, different crews, so that's very, very important, so that's what it is. So.
See, the key is, you might think, well, you have ICS, intercom. Just tell them what you're thinking or doing. Oh, just tell them the other guy. No, you don't have that kind of time. You barely have reaction time. You don't have time to observe and orient and do all the other stuff. You need to, there's a certain situation, bam, he knows what I'm doing, I know what he's doing, we're good to go.
I have a question about aircraft carriers. You see the picture when you have all these planes on the deck.
Right.
What do you do with all the planes when someone's trying to take off? I saw the lift in Maverick when he's down below and they lift him up.
Yeah, we have elevators.
Is there storage under the deck for all the planes?
So the hangar deck.
The way they do it, there's roughly 90 airplanes, depending on the load, the size of the carrier, but say 90 plus or minus 8. And there's only about 30, 33 on the flight deck. So in the first launch, and all day goes like this, cycles are about an hour 45. So you take off an hour 45 later, you're gonna land. So you got all these airplanes stacked on the flight deck, and you launch. In my day, we were doing 20, 25. How about you?
About the same.
Yeah. So 25 airplanes would launch, usually on the outside catapult 4, and catapult 1 and 2 off the bow. And then all the other airplanes are stacked. And sometimes catapult 2 in the first launch, you'll see it in the pictures in there, is stacked with airplanes. So there's only room on catapult 1, and your wingtip goes by 10 or 12 airplanes along catapult 1 as you're going. But as you can see, once you get 25 airplanes in the air, now you've got 20 left or 25 left on the flight deck if you started with about 50, and the other 50 are in the hangar bay. Now they're airborne, they're out of the way. So now all the blue shirts are running around towing the airplane and getting everybody ready for the next launch. So they're putting them behind the jet blast effector and in spots ready to go. And an hour and 45 later, everybody's back overhead the ship orbiting, watching the launch. Because as soon as that last guy gets launched, you have to be landing. And so at an hour and 45 later, now you take the last 25 airplanes that are on the flight deck, boom, they're all gone. Now you have an empty flight deck for 45 seconds. But somebody watched that, and it's usually the fighter guys down at the bottom, and they time their brake to be 1 mile beam at the 180 and come around to the 90, slow up to 150, and then get to your landing speed, 15-second groove, bam, 45 seconds later. His wingman, 45 seconds. The next guy's 45 seconds. F-18s that came after the Tomcats, you just keep doing that every 45 seconds, because if you just took as long as it took and had no discipline, and some were 5 minutes, some were 3 minutes, that ship has to steer to get 30 knots of wind down the angle. If there's 30 knots of wind, lots of white caps, the ship is hardly moving, just enough to make steerage. If the ocean is calm, there's not a single white cap, you know, okay, look at that big white weight behind the carrier. He's gonna make 30 knots. So he's doing 30 knots. So when you come around, you have the same wind over the deck every day, no matter what the wind really is. The carrier makes it, or the wind gives it to you. And you do that base recovery course, you want to do it the minimum time, because there's Chinese and Russian subs and missiles out there. And if you're gonna be predictable on that course to keep the wind for 5 or 10 extra minutes, you made 5,000 people vulnerable and a big warship vulnerable for 10 minutes that you didn't have to. Because as soon as the last guy lands, he already turns different direction and goes heading on to where he's gonna go. So you can see that now that they landed the 25 airplanes from the first launch, after the 25 left, now they have an hour and 45 to get them gassed up, fixed, and recrewed, and then they do that again. You do that 8 times during the day, fly it all the way to midnight. Now, when we were in the war, and especially when I went back, we had missions from the Indian Ocean where they were 9-hour missions in a fighter plane like that. So you can't stand up and go to the bathroom. You can't order a burger. So you bring a drink, you bring a pee bottle, and you're good to go for 8 to 9 hours. You take off, climb overhead the ship, hit our tanker, A7, A6, whatever. Then you fly to the UAE. There's a 135. In fact, there's a 135 guy here. Where'd he go? He must have left. 135 tanker guy was here. I'm over the UAE, getting maybe 8,000 pounds from that guy. Top it off, head to Kuwait. There's a Marine gonna come out and meet me in a C-130 tanker. So completely different hose and basket and everything else than the other one from the Air Force. Top off on that, and then what I did was, because this is before the war started, I played patty cake with the MiGs and the Mirages that they were flying out of Iraq, because they knew our rules of engagement. And the rules of engagement were, if they get shot down, they have to splash in the water. If they crash on land, you're probably gonna get court-martialed. So I would be out here over the Persian Gulf, they already bombed the hell out of Kuwait, took Kuwait, and so they're flying over Kuwait. But we're not allowed to shoot them down unless they're over the water, so we would go this way, and they would follow us out. And my GCI, this might be 30 miles, my ground control interceptor is telling me exactly where this guy is, and I'm thinking, oh, that might be enough. If I turn around real hard, I might be able to get him. So I go, wham, 6.5 G turn, and then you can see when we lock him up on the radar, he's going, uh-oh, that guy turned around. So he turns like that, which reduces your missile envelope by miles. When we get these 100-mile shots and 80-mile shots now we used to with the Phoenix, and super long range, 50, 60-mile shots with the AMRAAM, the AIM-120. That's because this guy's going about, yeah, well, they're doing so much that you're closing a mile every 3 seconds. So, because we both have speed, imagine 600 knots each, come at you. That's 1,200 knots of closure. So when you shoot the missile, yeah, he might be 60 miles away there, but as that missile's going, he's now 59, 58, so he's getting closer and closer real fast, and the missile will get him. So you can imagine if that was the max range right here, 60 miles, and he turned like that, he's not closing anymore. So now he's out of your missile envelope. He's trying to get feet wet before I shoot him. I'm zone 5 afterburner, trying to close, get the missile envelope. Damn, his feet dry, can't shoot. So then I turn around, and we would do that for 40 minutes, tank again on the Marine, do it another 40 minutes, tank again on the Marine, do it another 40 minutes. And I went, damn, not today. I wanted my MiG, didn't get my MiG, so I'd fly back to the UAE, tank again, back overhead, and then land 8.5 to 9 hours later. And we did that a long time. Any other questions? Question about the movie?
So you took on 8,000 pounds for facing 135, which is over 1,000 gallons. How long does it take to transfer that amount of fuel?
I think it was close to 1,500 a minute. Yeah. You're only back there 5, 6, 7 minutes, depending on how much gas you need. Nice formation point. You got the basket's basically this big, and the probe's about that big. You're gonna stick it in and stay there.
How long is the average dogfight?
They can be anywhere from 30 to 40 seconds to 90 seconds to a minute is about average. But I've had many flights that were a whole bag of gas. So we basically turned and burned for 12 minutes full afternoon. And you either get a rocks kill, like in the movie it says 5,000 feet hard deck. We call that a rocks kill in the Navy, or that's the hard deck. The Air Force didn't like deck because it was a Navy term, so they said you have to call it a floor. So in the Air Force, if you can drive the guy down below 5,000 feet above the ground, it's called a floor kill. It's as good as a Fox 2 or Fox 1. If you can drive the guy into the dirt, he's just as dead, so they call it a floor kill. Any other questions?
Talk to me about the difference between, like, you started at Tomcat and then you transitioned to a MiG as an instructor. What's the difference in the learning curve in going from that kind of plane to the other?
When we went to Area 51 to fly the MiGs, they were run by test pilots. Test pilots are there to get in an airplane that no one's ever flown before and fly it and come back with an e-board card full of data. What was V1? What was V2? You know, your rotation speed. What's your stall speed? How fast was it 150 to supersonic? You know, what was the max speed? What was the best instantaneous speed? So they come back with all these things on their knee board. On an airplane they haven't studied, didn't do the simulator. You just have to get out there and ring it out and learn about it. So when I went there, I thought they'd be very careful with a national asset like a Navy, because we didn't even put them out on the flight line when the Soviet satellites were over. We operated totally by where the Soviet satellites were. And in fact, a couple times, I shut the engine down because we had air brakes in the MiG-21, and you didn't need the engine to work hydraulics. So I shut the engine down, told them to open the hangar doors, coasted all the way down the taxiway into the hangar. They shut the doors, and then you could hear the announcement about the Soviet satellites over. And you see the hangar doors closing behind you. Like, yeah, that worked out great. So when you get in the MiG, nobody's told you much. So you have to figure it out. And I got in it, and one of the things I noticed was people that started up the MiG-17 on the first flight, they couldn't taxi. Any of you that have ridden in a small boat and you make a turn and the boat puts a turn in and you get to where you're pointed, you think that's good, you straighten out the wheel, what does the boat do? It keeps going because it keeps going, and then it catches the turn, then you go back and you go, okay, I'm going to turn a little earlier this time, and you miss it, it goes by where you want to go. And so you're kind of wallowing around like that because you're lagging behind what the rudder and the engine do. And the MiG-17 is the same way. You have to squeeze your handbrake here, but in order to get air to the right tire, you have to push the right rudder. And it closes the left side down, opens the right side up. So now this one breaks and the airplane goes like this. So I was watching the other guys do it, and they would turn this way and it wouldn't work, and then they would have to turn this way, and then they go, oh shit, And it'd end up like this, and the guys would come running out, shut it down, shut it down. Because they're aiming at the hangar, they can't go anywhere anyway. So they have to tow the airplane back, point it in the right direction, and hope that it finally gets it. And they always do. But I went to school on that, and I said, I'm not gonna let that happen to me. So I did, I turned and I went, normally I would hold this in for another 15 seconds, but I watched them do that, so I just let it out right away. And sure enough, it would stop. And I went, oh. And then I could just tweak the brakes a little bit, and went out, took it off, moved it all around. And got back and they were like, all right, we'll do 2 more flights in that, and then give you 3 more tomorrow, with the last 2 being dogfights. And then Wednesday we'll put you in the MiG-21. So I was already called the A4, the T-38, the F-4, and the F-5. I was flying at the time, those. And then I got the 2 MiGs on top. It was great, because talk about being an adult. Here's the keys, go take that. Go fly it. And then you gotta fight people with it and teach them how to win. That was really cool. Yes, sir.
There was a pretty bad accident during the filming of the first Top Gun. Is that something you can discuss with that?
That was the, remember this morning when I talked about shooting at Paramount Studios and we had the back screen? The guy that flew that, Art Scholl,
Yeah.
he took a camera bird out, single engine prop plane, and he took all the videos for that, and then they just put them on the back screen, and they were everything that Art shot by zooming all around the water, the desert, clouds, just to get all kinds of background. So he was out doing that maneuver, or with that same airplane, and apparently did a maneuver, and I think some of the camera machinery that it was using got loose, and it went against the other yoke, and he lost control of the airplane, couldn't get it out, crashed right off San Diego in the water. That's the guy you're talking about. He's the guy that the film was dedicated to. Tom Cruise almost had an accident, because the guy that was flying, well, they don't call him that for nothing. He took a full bird, heavy, 20,000 pounds, Tom Cruise, and said, we're just gonna do a taxi. So they go to the hold short like we do in a regular takeoff, hit zone 5 afterburner, and anybody's phone's out, I don't want this on YouTube. So they go through 60 knots, 100 knots, and the F-14 is so damn powerful that even if you drop it back at that point, you're gonna hit 120, hit it 120, and then he started to break. And so he realized, oh my God, I went pretty far down the runway. I'm way past where I would normally be when I'm landing, trying to stop. And I'm about 18,000 pounds heavier than I would be in landing. 18,000 pounds is a lot of inertia. So he had to brake, and they got such hot brakes. And I've seen hot brakes start the rubber tires on fire and then catch the airplane on fire. So he pulled off and they went over and he pulled the brakes real fast. And they made it out of that without an incident. But that was that close to being a total disaster. Killing Tom Cruise.
0-0 mentions.
He threw up a lot, by the way. So that's amazing. He threw up in the ocean scene because he was getting salt water in and he was drowning trying to hold goose. So they had to stop a couple times while they were shooting just to clean him up from all the puke. And when he went in the airplane, he got sick, like most of you would. And it's no harm, no foul. I mean, I don't even like playing in the back seat. I need controls. Because if something happens to the airplane and I didn't do it, the just screws your head. So I have a lot of respect for Rios and all backseat. Anyway, when he was in the air, he got sick. And yet, before Top Gun, he never rode a motorcycle, never flew in a fighter jet. Now he owns fighter jets and Mustangs, like he flew in Top Gun Maverick. That was his airplane. And he was really flying that actress in the back seat. And so Tom went from being sick in an airplane, and he even got sick when he flew with the Blues when they were trying to get him to be in the movie. He got that Blue Angel flight, and he said, "I'll do it," even though he was sick. He knew how good it would be, seeing the sky and the formation and all that stuff. But he got sick, kept pressing on, got his own airplane, got his own pilot license, bought a bunch of airplanes, had an L-39, which is a Russian jet that they trained everybody on for the movie. And so I thought that was pretty cool. Now he has his own motorcycle and his own airplane.
How did you get your call sign? And is there any interesting stories in the movie how the call signs were changed or whatever with that?
Yeah, call signs are really fun. Mine, probably half the people did it because of Heatley, but most of the people didn't know my name. I was a pitcher, and in fact, Billy's my shortstop and pitcher, good Billy. And Billy's also a Huey pilot from Vietnam who, show me your finger. Purple Heart for getting that shot off, getting shot in the belly, and a Bronze Star for being in the war. So Billy and I were out there throwing baseball. And in baseball, a heater is a fastball. So you'll hear the announcers, well, after 2 curves outside, I'll bet he comes in with a heater. If you've never heard that before, listen to any ball game just for 1 inning. You'll hear them say heat or heater or a fastball. And you heard of American Legion baseball? It's a big deal in the country. It's a very big deal in Pennsylvania. So for 4 years, I threw a no-hitter in Babe Ruth, and the American Legion coach said, "Hey, you're moving up," even though I was a freshman. So I was an American Legion player in Pennsylvania for 4 years, and I think it was 5, 7, 12. So 18-0. I was undefeated. Had scouts coming in all the ball games to see how I was doing. Hey,
Who's coming through?
coming through.
Have a good evening.
Guns, guns, guns. Where was I? Yeah, so 18-0, the Met Scouts are talking to me, and they basically said, of course, when you throw like that, everybody called me heater. That's how I got my call sign. But that's also how I got to Missouri, because the Met Scouts knew the coach at Missouri and said, if you don't get drafted high enough up, go to Missouri. They got a great baseball team in the World Series. He's a good coach. And I went there really upset because I played football. So I was a Missouri Tiger on the scout team in football in the fall, and they like to practice baseball. And eventually I got hurt enough in football that I couldn't play baseball. Excuse me, sir. Here. Come on in, break the door. Hey, how you doing? See you.
That's the mayor.
So let me tell you 2 call sign stories, because call signs are neat. Usually, you never get to pick your own call sign. If you do, they'll make you change it. But it's going to be something to do with either your name, like Richie Rich there, or it's going to be something physical about you. So Pappy was probably one of the older guys in his squadron, and of course he got the call sign Pappy, because he was 10 years older than everybody else, because he was former enlisted. So when the cutting edge came out, a few months before Top Gun movie, all of a sudden, I had the best-selling coffee table book in the world, and the Top Gun movie, which almost everyone knew how much I was involved in it, and that it started with my photo. And so they called my brother, who was a helicopter pilot in the Navy, younger brother, and his call sign was Killer, because we both boxed, and he did a lot of smokers, and he got nicknamed or call sign Killer. But when the book and the movie came out back to back, his call sign changed to Heater's Brother. So the whole Hilo community called him Heater's Brother. And the joke was on them because he was proud of it. He liked it. And when he was a midshipman, I was a Top Gun instructor, and I actually got him stashed in Top Gun and flew him around. So he knew what jets were like, but he ended up in helos. And after a year and a half of them not being able to break him, he went back to Killer because Peter's brother wasn't working. Here's what I did. So I'm in front of a group just like this, all pilots and Rios in the ready room, about this number right here, and about this size, at Miramar, and I'm having an AOM, an all-officers meeting. I'm the skipper. So that's what. We have 21 freelancers. And this guy just graduated from the F-14 pipeline as a pilot. A big old country boy. He comes down the hallway, comes in the door of the ready room, comes in, sees me in front of everybody, and he goes, he looks around and he goes, well, I guess this is my next group of guys, my next squad. And he says, hi, I'm Grizzly Bear. You can call me Grizz. And I go, welcome aboard, Pooh. He was Pooh Bear for the rest of his career. And this guy was from Tennessee. He hunted, he fished. I mean, and he was big, and he hated it so much the first 3 months. But like everybody, you end up realizing it's a term of endearment, and you end up liking it, and you go on. But there's a guy who made Admiral, and he kept learning his call sign, Puke, because when he was a JO, a junior officer, they caught him throwing up probably in some Liberty port. Call sign Puke, and he had to wear that all the way up till he had stars on his Who's got another good question? Sorry.
So you may have touched on it a little bit with the MiG-17 and the MiG-21. Out of all of the planes that you've had the pleasure of learning the throttle on over the years, which one has been your favorite? Which one has given you the most challenge in becoming one with the aircraft?
The 21 was kind of challenging only in the respect that if I had to eject out of that, the instrument panel, it was made for 5'9" Russians and Koreans, people who bought that Chinese. And so, and really it was a 40s jet. They just upgraded the MiG-15 to 17. So it was King Kong in the 50s, but the men in Russia were a lot smaller than 6'3". So when I got in it, my knees were underneath the instrument panel. And I recognized right away, if I eject, I'm gonna come down with 2 stumps and bleed out before I ever hit the deck. So I knew every time I took off in that thing, I wasn't gonna eject, no matter what happened in the airplane. Same with the Big 17, only worse. That was a really small airplane, and instead of kneecapping me, it would probably take it off right about here. So I knew I couldn't eject out of either one of those. And one of my best friends went in and he didn't eject. And I had to pick him up with a credit card. And I got about 40 pounds of a 220-pound guy. And I was the only one there because it was all classified. And I had to cover up the tail before the Soviet satellites came over. And I had to do like 100 yards out from the smoking hole because I'd get pieces off the cactus and tumbleweeds and rocks. It was all spread out all over. We went in 91 degrees, bang. So the 17s were a challenge that way, not just flying, but having that in the back of your mind was a challenge, which I think freaks me out more now than it ever did then. I didn't even worry about it back then. I didn't think about it, I'm just a mess. But the F-14 was a challenge because it had some very complicated emergencies. And I had 2 F-14 saves that I actually got Air Medal Bronze Star for. So that was kind of challenging, but I never considered airplanes challenging to fly. I just couldn't wait to get strapped in and take off. I was in my element when we're a beam, coast speed, and I say, fight son. That's all I live for. You fight till you get a rocks kill, a missile kill, a guns kill, set it up again, fight son. Go back and debrief it and make everybody better. Questions over here? There must be something in either Top Gun or Top Gun Maverick that didn't sit right with you. You couldn't figure out. You always went from that. Anything like that?
And Maverick, they sent the 4 ships in to hit the thing in camp. And they were concerned about the surface to air missiles. Typically, wouldn't a Growler go with you to take care of that?
Yes, there's
I know it's
a
Hollywood.
lot of things had to be done for a Hollywood movie where no one would watch it. A lot of things were actually really true. When I practiced that same mission a zillion times. You go in low, E&E all the way in, pop up like this, roll over, pull the latitudes this way, because you can only do about 3 that way and your eyes get bloody as hell. Even 2 is uncomfortable. So you don't want to push over because you are like crazy and you never get to drop the bomb. That's why they went like that and went over the back, which should make everybody wonder why they didn't get out, right? So when they pulled down and dropped the bombs, then they pulled up like this, they said they were looking at 10 Gs, right? So here's 2 things that were just ridiculous. If you drop your bombs here where they hit the target, right? And the side of the mountain is like this that they have to get out of. Remember when they came in, they went up and then down, drop the bombs and escape. So now we're going this way to show the other side of the mountain. So when you pull, you're arcing, here's your 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 Gs. What happens when you're parallel to that mountain?
Shouldn't have to pull these.
No Gs, you're at 1 G or a little less. And they're going up the hill. Like they're gonna pass out. And that's just not the way it works. And here's what's really crazy. So everyone knows all the missiles are gonna shoot you down if you get above this, right?
Right.
So they went in like that. Why, when they were coming up, did they just go ballistic and let the missiles kill them and all the other airplanes attack them? When all they had to do was go like that. Roll and bird, pull down the other side, egress out that way, below the missiles the way they came in. Then there wouldn't have been any tension. You wouldn't have been worried. You wouldn't have sold as many tickets, so that they did that stupid thing. Just like when Maverick took off, he didn't get all the runway. He left a lot of taxiway behind him. He didn't put his landing flaps down. That's 1,500 feet. And then he clips his nose, which would have given him a total hydraulic failure. And he would have been out to lunch. And he goes off. But I'll tell you one thing, I was at a few of these for Congress and for the Secretary of the Navy, and these were in IMAX theaters. when that F-14 took off, there wasn't a person sitting in that whole theater. I mean, people were, yeah! The F-14 was really the star of both movies, and that's why when we drove by here on I-70 2 years ago, we had to stop and come here and find out what was going on. And for those of you who missed it this morning, I had dinner here, and Neva said she found out I was an F-14 pilot before we went to bed in our room. And so she called up Bill and said, hey, you gotta meet this guy tomorrow at breakfast. He'll be here at 7:30. So Bill come in, we had breakfast and we talked about it, and that's the end result. I said, I want to give the visitors an experience, so after they're done getting all sweaty and looking at the F-14, they come back here for a drink and lunch or whatever. They can stop in here and see how the F-14 fits into the whole air wing and the Navy and Top Gun and movies and all that stuff. So 28 years of my memorabilia is in there. Any last questions? If you think of one later, wherever you see me, grab me. I have postcards to give you of F-14s. I'll answer any question between now and the time I go to sleep after fireworks. They're cooking a gigantic pig. It's going to feed more than 200 people, and it's free lunch. Can you believe that? Bill Spires.
Now, if you can answer these questions, but.
Yes, I can.
He seemed to run better in Maverick than he did in Top Gun. I was wondering if they could have an athlete in there running for him. He said he did his own stunts. Or
No,
he run better?
he ran like that because he had boots on and it was snow.
Okay.
So you almost have to pick your legs up better to run like that. And that looked pretty athletic to me too.
Yeah.
But he's an athlete, very proud to do his own stunts, and all those Mission Impossible stunts, motorcycle, helicopter, hanging on the outside of the airplane, he did all of it. It's amazing what he did.
And how about Val Kilmer? Was he really sick during that movie? Did they work around his inability to do things?
Yeah, Val was an interesting person on the first movie. He didn't talk to hardly anybody, especially Tom. He tried to keep the friction up, he says. But those of us that were there know better. The truth is, and he's gone now, the throat cancer killed him. But the truth is, and he admitted this on the flight deck, when they were doing the, you can fly with me anytime, you can be my wingman anytime, he didn't want to say that. And Tony had some arguments with him throughout the film, and his answer was always, I'm the star of the film. And in his mind, he thought he was the star of that movie. Why? Because he won the Top Gun trophy. And he even told Tony on the flight deck, he goes, why would I say he could be my wingman? I won the Top Gun trophy. So it was kind of strange. And he's got a kind of a prickly personality. It's why he got kicked off a number of other movies. He would have been Batman forever, but they wouldn't let him back on the movie. And so then he got throat cancer, got up to 300 pounds, and really struggled. Him and Tom got real close in the intervening years, and Tom didn't want to make Top Gun Maverick without having Val Kilmer in it. And you gotta realize Val Kilmer is an incredible actor. Look at anything he's done, and he's a good singer. He can be a little prickly. He can be like a stereotypical fighter pilot. Not humble, not protective, and not credible either. So he was different. Everybody else was wonderful. Tom was wonderful, the Kay and our kids. The whole crew was letting us listen on the sound and be involved. And of course, I was in a lot of the scenes myself. But everybody there, all those actors, I made good friends with. And a couple of them are dead, you know, Sundown, the black guy, good singer, race car driver. Went to his wedding. He came to my house a few times, and he's gone. Died teaching acting in Las Vegas. And the guy who Piper's call sign was used to be the skipper of Top Gun, the old guy that Kelly McGillis met in the bar. He's gone. Throat cancer. Pete Pettigrew, Piper, good friend of mine, triathlete, and all-American water polo player at Stanford. I mean, really tough guy. So he's gone too. Tony, the director's gone. But Kaczynski did such a good job of shooting the movie like Tony would have. The lighting, the angles, the bang, bang, bang that we talked about this morning. I think Top Gun Maverick is fabulous. All right, if that's it, remember what I said? I got a cutting edge to sign. Here, look at this. You won't be able to see this from here. But this curly-haired guy was not straight because of 10 years of chemo for blood cancer. So, got straight hair now, but that's still me back there. All right, well, thank you very much, guys. Really